Hello and welcome, and it is 11:33 p.m. Eastern Time, August the 9th, 2020, but I'll entitle it for the 10th, since that's what the new day coming is. All bets, trades, and of the like within each's own risk and their own reward. For myself, risk reward management is always job number one, and I got a little bit to do now because, and I say risk reward management because you control your risks and you control your reward. And hockey has been just magnificent. And the final game of the qualification round ended with the Columbus Blue Jackets defeating the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-0 in Game 5, and another significant large win for myself. And then I have to decide, okay, now I'm moving forward. I've got the gains. How do I maximize my rewards? Meaning, when I win, I bet more. When I lose, I bet less. And I'm in the betting more stages over and over, which is just a magnificent situation. Bitcoin right now up 3.09% since 8 p.m. and all these altcoins down a little bit against Bitcoin, which means if they're down like this, they're barely down against the dollar. H bar is barely up against the dollar and so on. And you know what? It's oftentimes quite normal to see altcoins going down in moves. When Bitcoin does this, Bitcoin goes up first. People selling coins to pretty much get Bitcoin. And what's going on right now, I believe, is that of a serious break. And I mean, it's just a good time because I got cryptos doing well, I got precious metals doing well, and we just see basically the market was down 0.75% on silver and 0.4 on gold 2 hours into the day. Now it's a little bit more. Gold is down 0.28%, so silver's down probably 0.55. Oh, it's down 1.1, which is pretty much nothing. Okay. All right then. So back to Bitcoin. I do believe this break is going to happen. This move up to this previous level of resistance in here. As it hit this high in here, 13.8-ish. Then again about 13.3, and well, we're pretty much at this one now. So we're at the lower end of the upper end range. And I talked about even the dysfunctional head and shoulders pattern, but I mean, it's worth talking about because you get all this left stuff. You got what would be like the head and then the right shoulder type of stuff. But the difference with this compared to this was there was no sellers that came in to drop the market down to complete that next parlay part of the pattern. And thus it didn't happen. And instead it had this sideways consolidation, and it's a clear breaker, and I've said this before, and I'm saying it again. I think it's going to be AKA similar to as it was back in the time frame when it broke out in here. And I believe as it starts breaking out above here, you might have a good chance to start to see that altcoins do very, very well. And I talked about dartboard rallies, things like that. And if it happens, it happens. And it would be magnificent, of course, if it does. And as this works on the monthly, this to me is a very bullish pattern over the last 4 months, with this one being included within the pattern after this low to this high, within, of course, what was like this kind of range. And now you see how this resistance starts to go down, goes size. Oh, starting to go up. You could do a little pattern here, okay. And even though this down move happened, well, if I track the lows, I mean, even this, it's even a little big, like a little big move like that. So the higher lows, the market's making higher highs, thus getting to an area where we can start talking about price points. It just really hasn't been much at, because we're at like 12,000. How much of it? We had a bit of 12,000 here. And for a sustained period of time, it was 12,000. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a little over half a year. And even if we include, and really not even that, let me draw a line. And not even close. No. I mean, well, over 11,000, we'll say. And this is an interesting line in here, because what Bitcoin has never done is hold a whole month above this. In fact, the high low here, I'm seeing this for the first time. What's the lowest here? 93.70. Then this was 200. And all these, of course, are lower. Has Bitcoin ever held? Bitcoin has never ever held every single minute of a month over 10,000. We have the opportunity this month to do it for the first time. Our low currently is 10,555, and right now is 12,000. So we would have to lose 2,000 just to even test breaking it right now, which would be that of about a 16% down move. And of course, that could easily happen. But it looks more likely to me, as this is playing through the 18 average of highs, that it's just going to make a move up to this level. So anyway, I don't really think there's much more I need to go over on Bitcoin, because to me this just thing's ready to go. If you got any of those like the 2x, 3x funds, I mean, I think they can still be valid to stay long on them. I mean, do what you need to do. Of course, it's your own risk, your own reward. But I mean, I think those little funds will go good, and you're looking to make any type of long bet trades. Why you be shorter than any type of hedge bets or whatnot? I don't know. I mean, the bulls are the buyers totally in control amongst pretty much every single time frame. I mean, maybe, well, who cares about the 1 minute? But the 1 minute might break down, as it might have many other times before. It had an opportunity here, and now it's showing this opportunity here. Ooh, I mean, even if it does break down into here, we still start to see like 11,008. Well, that's, or even 11,780. That's just the way the market and money moves, and only price pays in these markets. And yeah, a lot of the quotes that I state are pretty much just copycat. It's a copycat world. I mean, risk reward management. It's all Brian Shannon, because these videos that I'm doing, I'm pretty much just copying what Brian Shannon from Alpha Trends, who I learned from starting back in 2007, was doing back then, putting all the videos out. And basically, when I was learning markets back then, that's who I watched. So I learned a lot from him. He says risk management is job number one, but it's two different sides of the fence. You got to control your bankroll so that it doesn't lose, but you got to ensure that you win the maximum amount of gains, and then control risk on a much higher bankroll level. That's, you want to look at it from both levels. That's why I continuously say it. And being conscious of both levels, I think, is a very good. But even from failed moves comes fast moves. He said that all the time. So I learned that from him. And there's just so many different cool things I was able to learn. And there's just so many different people on here that are sharing their thoughts, their ideas, and so forth. And then everyone just copies bits and pieces from other ones. Another one he said all the time way back when, and I should be saying this too, at least in my own way, is to make my ideas your own. And I mean, totally. I just made so many different things, like the 18 average of highs and lows. I just thought, like, yeah, let's just put it out, because I was using at the time a channel called freestockcharts.com. And I noticed when I went with, they showed on average, you can not just have close, but you could have high and you could have low, and maybe a few other ones. And I was thinking, oh, that's interesting. And I just thought the idea, well, if I have a high and low one, there'll be like a gap that might look pretty cool. And then I just worked with a few time frames. And one of the channels, I don't really watch too much of it, Ira Epstein. And a lot of the times was because he'd separate his videos every day in a nice little format for like stocks and gold and like the precious metals and such. And he uses 18 average all the time. So I thought for short-term numbers, I just thought, you know what, if he uses it, I'll just use it. That's the reason why I use 18. There really isn't any of, and I mean, it's 20 would probably, it wouldn't be a big difference if you use 17, 18, 19, 20, something in that area pretty much all works. I mean, you get the same sort of results using the 20, and it would practically look about the same. Let me just do a different time frame so it looks better. Not that one. Yeah, like something like that. You see, and let's just, so where's the edit button on here? Settings. I gotta find my keyboard. And I did. Well, I paused the tape while I had to go get it. Oh, they did have a cursor. I was like, well, I knew I didn't have it near me. I was just like, give me one of these types of buttons. And of course, now I see that. Okay, so we got this goes to 20. And then I mean, what's the big difference here? I mean, it really doesn't make much of one. I mean, I'm not going to keep it at 20. I mean, I could keep it at 20 because really, again, the difference is, I don't even really see any difference there. So, I mean, it's just in that area of what you use. And then if you use these for like bigger numbers, not really much of a big fan of it, but let's just say like 100 period. So we'll do 100 on the high. And then we'll do, and I don't even like to have too many things on my screen. I've seen so many people have like 7 or 8 different moving averages and 4 or 5 trend lines and a box here and this, that. And I mean, that's just too much for me to see. I mean, this works at, I mean, totally different level, and you could, and this could work to your advantage in different ways. But I really, if I wanted to see a bigger moving average, I'd rather look at, I could see the 18 on a different time frame or whatever. But you can still see within it how you can, how well you got the excitation from the 18 on this in here and has a good gain and all that type of stuff. But I mean, yeah, whatever. Find your preferences when you are trying to find what works for you, and then when you find out, trying to like, okay, what things are, what things can you work towards that you're very strong at, that you can accelerate more at, put more volume in, extra ways of just increasing your performance in what, because you're good at that type of whatever it is. And then there's other issues that, man, these things, I just can't make any money on this. And then you can maybe avoid those situations, because the biggest advice I could give anyone in game theory, regardless of the game, is to always maximize your strengths, minimize your weaknesses, and if you can, maximize your opponent's weaknesses while minimizing their strengths as well. And the best in which you can do that, well, the better off that it is that you're going to be. And when I'm doing fantasy hockey, I mean, I do that all the time as well. I understand when I say opponents, those are other people that play the game. I understand their weaknesses and their strengths, and I most certainly do exploit that. And I understand my strengths, and I maximize them within such very, very well. And again, I did it very well in a hockey game today. My whole hockey series, there was like, well, August 1st to 9th. It was like 9 days. My bankroll basically just had a huge gain over that time frame. And I mentioned about hockey. They have these like hockey games, like on the first game of the Stanley Cup Finals in like, well, 3 weeks or 6 weeks, 3 rounds. There's going to be a $15 game that they have where people can put $15 US in a game. You pick 6 hockey players in that hockey game, first game. And of course, there's going to be big prizes. There'll be like 150 lineup max, most likely. And that's how many I'm trying to win. They have like satellites you can play, they call it, where you put up a quarter or $1, and you can win these $15 tickets. I won 5 tonight. I won 8 the last 2 nights before. 3 the first night, 5 yesterday, and 5 today. I won't win any tomorrow because there's no hockey tomorrow, but I'm thinking, okay, if there's like 8 days where there's going to be 4 games a day, that's 32 games. And then there's going to be games 5, 6, and 7 of the first round. And then there'll be half of that in round number 2. So 16 plus games 5, 6, and 7. And then there will be 8 to 14 games in the conference finals. And I should be able to, and that's like a little goal, like make games out of what you try to do, because it's all a game within this. It always has been for me. I've always been more of a games person ever since, well, I was a little kid. And game theory has always been a major, major enjoyment that I have. And I guess a lot of people have card sharks before back in the day. I was called Rain Man in the poker. One person, I'm like, what the heck does Rain Man mean? It was in the back in the poker days. And I mean, I thought he was insulting me. He was actually complimenting me, thinking, because he was basically calling me like a genius kind of deal. It was kind of interesting. And I was like trying to find out, what's this whole Rain Man thing kind of mean? It was like, I guess it was a movie. I don't even really understand what it is, but I guess it was like a movie and some like sort of smart guy. I don't know. I never seen it actually. So even though that would have been like 2006, maybe. It's just at one of the poker rooms that I used to play at. And yeah, whatever the game was, I was always trying to find edges. And that's what was very interesting, because back in 2007, it was the summer of that year, I had a friend come up to me talking about markets. I think he gave me a Staples chart or some sort of other company or whatever. And it was like, I didn't care about the company in the sense, but just talking about the buying and selling. And he was just talking a little bit in a way like, you know what, it's almost like a casino game in the sense of you have a bankroll, you make bets one way or another, and your bankroll goes up or down. If I can bet like $100 on a stock or $1,000 or whatever, and it goes up 30%, that's going to be a 300 gain. If I had a bankroll of 400, it goes to 43, and you're just doing your normal bankroll management stuff. And obviously some of these things can have some decent gains. Now, of course, back then I was looking at stocks, which you'd be like looking to get 20, 30, 40% moves and such. But really, it was never ever really getting into it, just learning it at first, and then trying to find, of course, edges, as I like to call it. The term advantage player, advantage gambling, is terms that I like to reference. As I've studied a lot. I think back in 2006, I got 7 or 8, 9 poker magazines per month. I got every poker magazine there was. I ended up getting delivered to me, and a lot of them I got for free. Pretty much all of them I got for free. It was like, because back in the day you just do different rewards. Do this, and we'll give you this for free. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Oh, I'll give you a free if you deposit this, and I'll buy this game or whatever, play this game. You will get a free like a year subscription, a poker player, and then whatever. This was and then I just buy them all the time too. I suppose maybe I didn't get too many for free. Maybe a couple or couple, maybe only 3. Well, a lot of it was books I got for free. I probably got like 5 to 10 poker books for free as well. And I never got hotel rooms for free. I don't think I got many meals. And of course, drinks was always free. Well, not always, but I always got a lot of free drinks back in the day. And when I say drinks, I mean non-alcoholic drinks, just in the sense that I haven't had alcohol in like 2 decades. So, but anyway, with that being said, of course, the trying to get an edge is something that can be done in these markets. They can be done so many different levels. And my goal, my whole life, pretty much always was to make it. And mainly in hockey too, which is why it's interesting it's happening right now, because this really goes back to 1997. And I'm in college at the time. And what happened was I would at lunchtime go to the convenience store and buy the Toronto Sun newspaper, even though I had the internet. Barely. I mean, I just got it actually. When did I get it? I got it. Yeah, I just got it. I just got the internet, or I was about to get it. It was like February or March of 2017 or 2007, or not. Yeah, no, 1997. I got the internet in my house for the first time, and I'd access it at night, and I'd access to it at a different college in 95 and 96. But what happened was I was winning games, betting the Ontario, Canada, on a betting system that they had there, and I found a way to do it. Now, the game style and odds and the way they played it did change the next season. It was only that season I really beat it. But what happened was the 1997-98 season came into play, and because I'm just using the internet for the first time, I'm learning things like news groups and stuff like that. And my social media in 1997 was simply 2 levels, and that was trying to meet women in chat rooms and then talking hockey, and I think it was news groups at the time, as well as other different posting forms and even different chat box. And that was because of the MIRC chat. Then there was ICQ, and then there was MS Messenger was popular for a while, and I don't even use it. I guess YouTube is the only social media that I use today. Don't really tweet anything, even though I barely even go on Twitter. Sometimes I have to look for hockey news there, but even barely. All the stuff that I get in different sites, they get from Twitter kind of deal, so it all works that way. And so back then, that was what I was looking to do, was just win in the hockey game. And then you started to learn about online sports books and different things like that. And I mean, I didn't really play poker much at the time. I mean, if there was ever a weekend game, and I'd play. And it was really interesting because I went to my former brother-in-law's home one night to play a big poker game with my cousin and her husband, and these were big time players. And now and this isn't even that big a stakes, because I mean, this is nothing stakes for me now, but at the time when I was playing poker, I was like the type of person that would put like $20-30 at the table back then, when I was all my life up to my early 20s. And here I'm playing a game where there's like $100 you put at the table, and we're having and it's limit, but you can get $30, $40, $50 pots, $60 pots were pretty common, and just seeing big bets, and it was like, oh my goodness. And it was just like a fascinating experience. And then online poker and casino poker would come into play, and like I mentioned, I bought all those poker books, and at the same time, I was also trying to bet on sports, but I mean, the results were up and down, to say the least. There was a lot of good ones, but there was also a lot of bad ones. I mean, really one or two really, really bad ones, and two or three several good ones as well, though, where you'd have a run for 2 or 3 or 4 months or 6 months where just, wow, like the Super Bowl between the New England Patriots versus the first one that they won versus the St. Louis Rams at the time. I had the Patriots in the under, and it was such a huge cash. And then I parlayed that throughout the next few months in college basketball. And not even NHL was probably pretty good then. But I remember my biggest win after that, I had a very good college basketball day on a Saturday where my early games, I think I went something like, I don't know, I won like 8 or 9 of them in a row. And I just had different like round robin combos of 3-game parlays, and I won so many of them. And I pretty much won like 11 of my first 13 and like 3 of my last 5 or something. And I mean, I was like, oh my goodness, if I win 4 or 5 of my life, if I win 5 of 5 at the end, I'm like, oh my goodness, look what I win. 4 or 5 is like, oh my goodness, too good. 3 is that good, which is what I won. And 0 would have been like break even. But yeah, that's the type of breaks that I would end up going through. And even poker would come the same way, where you get times where you go to casinos and like every single day it seemed like, okay, it's like you're just adding... you look at how much you're trying to manage, how you store your cash on you while you're with the hotel and everything like that. Because say you go to the hotel on a Wednesday and you're checking out Sunday. I mean, things can get pretty good on Friday, Saturday, and to the point where, okay, I need to because of course your cash balances could get pretty high. And that's all part of your so many different levels, I guess, within the risk reward management that comes into play. So again, so many different times I tried different bets, and again, things were good and bad. And what happened in just fantasy, fantasy was interesting because even back in the 1990s, I actually got kicked. I don't know why they did it. I mean, it was so weird. It was my friend's sister's husband who had a live draft in the mid 1990s, and he decides to let me play one year, and I won. I did pretty damn good at it, and I don't think I really was allowed to play the next year. And then I played a few more times after that, like 3 or 4, and I think I finished like maybe 2nd or 3rd or something out of those years. And there's also playoff pools that he had too. I ran a whole bunch of pools too, and anytime you could find little games like that. But I mean, back where I was in the day where I was at the time frame, like the 90s, where was I getting most of my money from? I'm trying to think of it offhand. I mean, I had one job that worked pretty good, which was probably where the majority of it would have came from, because I got student loan in not 1 year, and that was unfortunate because the first few years I went to school I didn't need to. It was just easy to make the cut, and that's just interesting itself, because the first year I went to school, which was 1994, and Canadian fiat currency, I had no idea what the word fiat meant that year. They never taught me that either. It cost $312 a month to live, and I paid for 8 months in advance. It cost about $1,000 for all the tuition fees collective. It might have been even a bit less than that, like $960 or $950. Then I think bucks would have ran me like another $140, $150. And then don't tell me how much my beer cost that year, because it would have been a little high. But that's what happens back in the day when you can make money, or fiat currency as I didn't call it back then. And you could make enough of it where like, oh, I can afford this, I can afford that, I can afford that. And then you live on your own for the first time when you're 18 years old, and you got 5 roommates who are 19 to 24 years old, and the minimum buying age to get alcohol is 19. It really wasn't that difficult to get. And that's just the way like the movement of time is. Like, I've always been one to be able to find ways of getting income. Even on the worst of times, it was hard, of course, but of course now with what I've been able, like, I got my precious metals portfolios doing well, cryptocurrencies doing well, and the fantasy was like, again, like October, was interesting. I've been doing that for a while, and I thought to myself, hey, this is a good idea. Why don't I just try this if it's this kind of game? And then I get that it happens to be that exact amount. It was the exact, pretty much, don't even have to change much of it at all. Just expand upon it. like a gold mine strategy, and it's been probably, now I mentioned about winning. Well, I gotta think I've got to be near 10 or 5 figures profit very, very soon. I mean, it's been very fantastic. And then during the off time, it was tough, which was like April and May and June. But what was good about it, because there's parts living a life so many times. I've had so many months before where like, oh, how much money have you made the last 4 months? Negative many thousand, but hey, yeah, that happens. But I got a lot of cash on me, so hey. And then oh, how much did you make the many months before that? Oh, a lot. And then that's just the way life is when you pretty much live that kind of lifestyle. Anyway, I would like to thank you for tuning into this video, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.